to the July 24th, 2023 Eugene City Council meeting. Thank you for joining us in this hybrid meeting format. Anyone wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by following the access instructions listed for this meeting on the public webcasts and meeting materials web page. Tonight's meeting will include a public forum. If you wish to speak during the public forum and have not already done so, please fill out a request to speak form available on our public webcast and meeting materials web page. For those of you who are here in person, printed forms are also available at the entrance to the room. We'll accept requests to speak forms until 7:35. These requests to speak forms will be used to generate the random order of speakers and correctly enter speakers' names into the public record. For those of you who are joining the meeting by phone, who wish to testify and are unable to complete the request to speak form online, press *9 when the form is announced, and the last 3 digits of your phone number will be added to the speaker's queue. And as a reminder, we ask you all to display respect and decorum in the room, no flags, signs, loud or disruptive language that would obstruct the business of the council. And we're seeking to create a very safe public forum so that everybody can speak and be heard and listened to carefully. And you're always welcome to wiggle your fingers in silent support. And then I think we'll just move on from there. So thank you all again for joining us. I will formally open this meeting with a land acknowledgement. Since time immemorial, the Kalapuya people have been the indigenous stewards to our region, building dynamic communities, maintaining balance with wildlife, and enacting sustainable land practices. Today's land acknowledgement is a way of resisting the erasure of indigenous histories and of honoring Native communities by inviting truth and reconciliation. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. As we consider the impacts of colonization, we also acknowledge the strength and resiliency of displaced indigenous people. The city of Eugene is built within the traditional homelands known as the Kalapuya Illahee. Kalapuya descendants are citizens of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians of Oregon. They continue to make contributions in our communities here and across the lands. We express our respect for the inherent political sovereignty of all federally recognized tribal nations and indigenous people who live in the state of Oregon and across the nation. And as we do, we open this meeting with some a proclamation and some other comments. And so the proclamation today is in recognition of Eugene Springfield LGBTQ Pride Day. Whereas the Eugene Springfield Pride in the Park Festival celebrates all that makes this community great. And whereas the City of Eugene and the Pride in the Park Festival work to ensure that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights and are treated equally regardless of sexual orientation or gender identification. And whereas the City of Eugene and the Pride Festival are committed to ensuring diversity, social justice, equality, and mutual respect throughout our community. And whereas the City of Eugene and the Pride in the Park Festival are committed to ensuring diversity, social justice, equality, and mutual respect throughout our community. And whereas the City of Eugene and the Pride in the Park Festival strongly support visibility, dignity, and equality for all LGBTQ plus people in our community. And whereas the City of Eugene and the Pride in the Park Festival proudly state that we support our LGBTQ plus community and love will win the day. Now, therefore, I, Lucy Vinnis, Mayor of the City of Eugene, Oregon, do hereby proclaim August 12th, 2023 to be Eugene Springfield LGBTQ Pride Day. And then I would like to just take an opportunity to acknowledge one other important landmark on the calendar. This Wednesday, July 26th, marks the 33rd anniversary of the American with Disabilities Act. The City of Eugene values and strives to provide universal access to buildings, programs, events, and meetings from outdoor activities like our adaptive recreation services at Hilliard Community Center, our arts and culture venues, including the Holt Centers. And we also partner with Mobility International USA to leverage our innovative programs such as river rafting and outdoor ropes challenge course to introduce activities to delegates from around the world. Eugene is also home to Danceability International, a group which works to spread and support inclusive dance throughout the world, and World Wheelchair Sports, a group committed to help those with mobility impairments discover independence by providing outdoor recreational experiences and competitive athletic opportunities. Locally, all Lane Transit District buses became wheelchair accessible, the first transit system in the country to do so, and 5 years before the Americans with Disability Act of 1990 established an equal opportunity law for people with all disabilities. So we are striving to do the best we can, and we are a model in many ways in this work, and it is wonderful to think of 33 years and what has been accomplished to make our community more accessible for everyone who lives here. So thank you for bearing with me through those moments. And with that, I think we're ready for committee reports and items of interest. Are there counselors who have things to share today? Counselor Zelenka.
Yeah, I don't often comment on things that happen in other states, but what the Florida School Board did recently was so brazenly stupid and racist that I had to comment on it, that they said that slavery created skills for the betterment of slaves' lives in a rewriting of history and whitewashing of it, literally. And that's just absolutely stunningly ridiculous. The slavery was about torture and rape and imprisonment and tearing apart families and incredibly dehumanizing. And to call it's just not skills building. Sorry. That is just an amazing turnabout in what's happening in this country and race relations. And I just thought I had to comment on that because it was just stunning to me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate those comments and recognizing how people are trying to rewrite history in a
very inappropriate way.
Very inappropriate. So any other comments from council? Any other updates? All right. With that, I think we're ready for the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the items on consent calendar 1.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that passes. Thank you very much. And with that, we are ready to move on to the public forum. And the public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official. And I know the staff is preparing that list, and you're ready to post it? Excellent. And then I will turn it over. I will turn it over to you, Cherish, to get this rolling.
Yes, we have 26. We have 26 speakers this evening. And I'm scrolling through here so you can see where you are in line. If you have signed up to speak via Zoom, please take this time to ensure that your screen name in Zoom matches the first and last name you used to sign up to speak. If your screen name does not match, we cannot promote you to a panelist to speak when it is your turn. We will announce 2 speakers' names at a time. If you are providing testimony via Zoom, when it is your turn, we will announce your name and promote you to panelist status, and you can unmute and turn on your camera if you wish. If you are announced as the next speaker and physically in the room, please move to the seat in the front row designated for the next speaker. When it is your turn, you may come to the podium. Please leave any bags you have with you at the seat. When you are called to speak, please state your name clearly and for Eugene residents, your ward or neighborhood, if known, before beginning your comments. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light indicates the end of the 2.5 minutes. For those who have connected to the meeting via phone and don't have the benefit of seeing the timer, please be aware that your microphone will be muted at the 2.5 minute mark. Please note that screen sharing or displaying information on the screen is not allowed, and any misuse of the platform or violation of the council's code of conduct will result in immediate termination of speaking privilege. If you have documents to give council, please place them in the council inbox basket near the podium. Our first speaker this evening is Lynn Woodrich, followed by Joanne Shatola, and I will need just a moment to promote Lynn.
My name's Lynn Woodrich. I'm the Active Bethel Community Co-Chair. I've lived in the Bethel area over 25 years. I live in Ward 8. I'm speaking for the Active Bethel Community Board. We voted to change our name from Active Bethel Citizens to Active Bethel Community at our general meeting in October of 2021 to be more inclusive. It only changes our charter in 2 places for the name change. The balance of the charter says ABC. We're told that you will be seeing our request when you return from break. We sent you a public health overlay zone statement of support letter on September 22nd. I'm looking forward to hearing back from City Manager Sarah Mederi about the options for a quicker way to ensure that the historical pattern of approving zoning codes and land uses that place industrial polluters and homes adjacent are eliminated in the future. We need an option that includes all the elements of the proposed public health overlay zone to create buffer zones between homes and polluting businesses and ban the worst polluting industries from city limits. We also need to strengthen noise, vibration, and odor rules, public meeting requirements, and other development standards. This also would help provide peace of mind for a community that has long suffered from higher pollution levels. Families should know that the value of their property will not suffer due to nearby sources of pollution and that large new polluters won't move into the area. Everyone in Eugene deserves to know that their families are safe to go outside, to take an evening walk, to eat vegetables from their backyard gardens, and to recreate in their local parks. Regarding the Bethel area plan, I urge you to help the university area with new regulations to help them with their concerns and move Bethel to the top of the area plan list as soon as River Road Santa Clara is finished in January 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Next, we will hear from Joanne Shatola, followed by Jill Cole.
Thank you. Mayor, Council, thank you. Joanne, Ward 5. I'm sure we're tired. This is about renter protections. Later, sorry about that. Renter protections, I'm sure everybody's tired about it. I'm sure you'll vote to accept the ordinances as written, but we have to give it one last shot here. Landlord excuse bingo, you need to know that was what was being played at your council meeting. And council has an agenda, landlord pays tenants to move. Let's be aware of our decisions here. If we ask a tenant to move, even in year 1, the ordinance says we pay 2 months rent and we have to let them be for 90 days. Paying a tenant 2 months rent when they've only been there for 12 months is actually kind of funny. But no worries, leave the ordinances written. I won't ask a tenant to leave. I'll force a tenant to leave by eviction. The easy, fair, balanced solution would be to allow a no-cost termination in year 1. It won't give the tenant money, but it will help them to be able to rent in the future. They really don't want an eviction. We want to rent. We don't want a no cause unless there's a concern. Your action, if considered, will force an eviction. We're only asking for you to leave the no-cost termination as a state law for year 1 only. At your last work session, someone mentioned an imbalance of power. Why? Because there's landlords and tenants, not sure, but we need each other. All a tenant has to do is pay, don't disturb, and don't damage. We're not going to terminate, but if there's a concern in year 1 only, let us correct with the sliver of decision without an eviction. It's best for the tenant. On another note, take apps in the order received. Okay, the rules as written give way for much leeway for a tenant to say, we did something wrong. We're adults. We understand in the order received. Just say in the order received and let us figure it out from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Next, we will hear from Jill Cole, followed by Steve Piercy.
Good evening. My name is Jill Cole, Ward 4. My family has lived in Eugene for 5 generations now. I am actually a full-time volunteer with 4J Schools, and I am now the full-time PA for the Eugene Emeralds. I got pulled out of the stands that I was being ejected from a game and was offered a job. There aren't a lot of female PAs, so this is really exciting. The Emeralds have created a very positive impact in our community, and I just wanted to highlight that tonight. I really want to see the city approve the new stadium at the fairgrounds. There isn't a student in our community that doesn't know and recognize our mascot, Sluggo. Sluggo comes to our schools and our assemblies. He comes to our jogathons and our fundraising events. But more importantly, he rewards kids for reading books. If they read 10 books, they get free tickets to come to an M's game during the summer. And I think that it's so important in our community that there is wholesome and low-cost fun for families in our area. I think it's super important that the Emeralds celebrate our veterans, our firefighters, our police force, our first responders, and they also celebrate diversity in our area with our Pride Night, as well as the Los Monarcas de Eugene games that celebrate Latin culture in our area. I also believe that the M's are shattering glass ceilings. I actually work in an all-female press box. This is the first of all minor league baseball. There's 6 of us up there, and it's absolutely fabulous. I just wanted to highlight those things that I love about the M's, and thank you for listening tonight.
Thank you, Jill. Next, we will hear from Steve Piercy, followed by Catherine Dunn. Steve, go ahead and unmute.
Hi, my name is Steve Piercy, Ward 1, and I'm here to speak in favor of providing housing options for people who do not have the means to do so on their own. In 2018, we bought a home for my mother-in-law, Vicki, to live out her days with independence and dignity. Vicki was a retired medical assistant living on a fixed income. We bought this home for its accessibility for Vicki, located a 20-minute walk from our home. Vicki insisted on paying a small portion of the mortgage to contribute to the family as rent, well below market rates. In 2021, she was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, which had metastasized to her brain. We became her primary caregivers, shuttling her to medical appointments, in and out of treatment facilities, and ultimately back home for hospice care. My wife used her time off and unpaid time off, and I worked fewer hours to care for Vicki. All this decimated Vicki's life savings and cut into our wages. On Thanksgiving weekend in 2021, Vicki passed surrounded by her loving family. In 2022, we considered options of what to do with the empty house. We considered selling it, turning it into an Airbnb, renting it, and leaving it vacant indefinitely. I have 2 aging parents and a sister living with a disability, currently living independently. My mother is a primary caregiver for my father. He only leaves the house for medical appointments. None of us are wealthy, but we manage because we live simply. Because I know that there will come a time when I will once again become a primary caregiver for a family member of my own family, we decided that we should keep the house. And until then, we decided to do the right thing, provide housing to another family by turning it into a long-term rental property. But now this ordinance threatens our ability to provide housing to our family members who will need it someday. We cannot afford to pay relocation assistance to someone that is not a part of our family. We will need every penny to care for our own family, keeping them safely housed and helping them live with basic human dignity. If this ordinance takes effect as drafted, will we be forced to reconsider whether doing the right thing for another family is the right thing for us? If you have ever cared for an aging parent or a disabled family member, then you know I speak the hard truth. Please do not cause financial hardship to families. Please follow the wisdom of the city of Portland and reinstate the exemption to relocation assistance where an immediate family member of the landlord takes tenancy. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Steve. Next, we will hear from Catherine Dunn, followed by Dawn Hetty.
Good evening, councilors. Catherine Dunn, Ward 5, speaking on renter protections. Tonight, I urge the council to not move forward with the proposed renter protections, as I believe they will negatively affect all parties, the city, renters, and landlords. These protections need to be re-examined with more landlord input, as they are the only ones who know the intricacies of renting and the rental process. Relocation assistance is the most worrisome of what's on the table. The city's roadmap indicates this will keep people housed, make rentals more affordable, and promote racial equity. This will not keep tenants housed when landlords start selling off their rentals, which has already begun, and when investors who could add to the rental supply decide to invest in other cities without such stringent laws. Relocation assistance also won't promote affordability because landlords will have to increase rent to compensate for the increased financial risk. The risk of having to pay thousands of dollars to a tenant if an unforeseeable situation arises that could cause the landlord to decide to evict a tenant, sell the property, move into their own rental, or something else. And I don't see what relocation has to do with promoting racial equity. Plus, we also have the Fair Housing Act that we abide by. Regarding the security deposit of 2 times rent, the city's roadmap indicates the impact will be to make rentals more affordable. However, I believe you will make rentals less affordable. Why? Because setting the security deposit to 2 times rent normalizes how much a security deposit should be, while many rentals require a lesser security deposit currently, especially for the many that don't require the last month's rent up front, like mine. I do not require last month's rent. Before passing such an important ordinance, I would suggest researching the issue and gathering data to determine where the tenant stories are coming from that security deposits are so high. If it's true, it's likely from a small minority of the properties or for high-risk situations. But gathering valid data is important before making such decisions as these. Finally, I just want to say that having the city report kind of as a joke to me, because we don't get much reporting that is coming out of the housing code program right now. But I would say 2 years is too far to go when there's a new law in place. So I would recommend it be within the first.
Thank you, Catherine. Your time is concluded. Next, we will hear from Dawn Hetty, followed by Jerry Van Pykeren.
Good evening, friends. Dawn Hetty, Ward 7. We're always advised to check context. So here's a Dawn Hetty original. Rhetorical question. What's the main ingredient in humble pie? It's crow. Got to be able to eat crow. I need to eat some crow. A 4-letter word slipped by last time I was here. That word was only. And I used it in regards to truth. And I regret that. You see, context matters. I sent an email earlier today to the last link on the contact list. If you haven't seen it, it's 2 screenshots. You know, I got banned for hate last week because I didn't look at context. 55 Chev Bel Air, the words tranny hump were included. Please check it out for context. It's really innocuous. You see, that sticks in my craw. That's why I'm bringing it up, because that's artificial intelligence at work, and it's not going to get any better, and it's going to stick in your craw too, because context should always matter. Instead, we have masquerading for context is guile. Well, what's guile? It's insidious, cunning, deception, or duplicity. That's what operates in our society. It was referenced earlier this evening, and it's never called out, so it's time. You see, it operates not everywhere, but at all levels. It's standard operating procedure. Proven guilty. So here's the great irony. The climate crisis is going to be the context. It's going to drive everything. And it's an open question. While the earth screams at us, we've got Arab energy ministers running COP, or our climate. So to conclude, we need to do something about our contacts, and it starts and every day in and out. Contacts, the truth matters. And watch out for that AI. It's going to bite us bad. Bad.
Thank you, Don. Thank you. Next, we will hear from Jerry Van Pykeren, followed by Jonathan Skeeman.
Greetings, Mayor, councilors. I'm here I rewrote a proposal. Oh yeah, sorry, Geraldine Van Pykeren, Ward 7. And today I sent the mayor an email about this, and I have copies for each one of you, and I would really love a response from each one of you. This is about tent safe campgrounds. I checked the website of the city, and they have a lot of great programs. However, I addressed your concerns, Mayor Venus, about the city not having enough money or funds to support a staff person or to provide tent sites for 3,000 people. So that I understand. And so I wrote a proposal that will actually help you make money, perhaps not make money, but put more money into these campgrounds. Because what could happen is if the city and county work together, you have pieces of property that you put rocks on and fences up so that the unhoused don't have places to put their tents. But you must also, it's logical to say you have land where they could put their tent. They don't need anything fancy. They just need places where they're safe and not swept. So this campground proposal would be first to start out with those who have some Social Security income. A lot of them can't afford an apartment, but they could afford $200 a month or a third of whatever they're getting in from Social Security. And if you created the campsites so that would pay the host who could oversee and make sure that rules were followed. And yeah, and basically that could also pay for, the basic services of garbage, potty toilet, and I had the financial aspect. And in the end, if they were a full house and you had 20 to 30 people, depending on what felt right for the campers coming in. Anyway, please look at this. It's very viable. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Next, we will hear from Jonathan Schuman, followed by Emma Spratt.
Hello, Eugene. Hello, City Council. My name is Jonathan Schuman. I'm a resident of Eugene, and I currently reside with my family in Ward 8 in the Churchill area. I am here to support our Eugene Emeralds organization. My family and I relocated to Eugene in 2015. Having grown up in Oregon, my wife wanted to raise our kids in Oregon in the type of community that she grew up in, a safe, affordable, friendly community that values organized and accessible community events, which were lacking in the area we moved from. We were excited to learn that among those opportunities, Eugene was home to a minor league baseball team, the Eugene Emeralds. It may not sound believable, but we were hardly baseball fans. We couldn't afford the major league games in our previous city, nor did we have the time to battle the traffic and the parking to even get there. When we would go, on the rare occasion, it would set my family back nearly $500 for a single sporting event. Not long after we came to Eugene, my union, Lane Professional Firefighters Local 851, hosted a night at PK Park. It was my first experience at an M's game. It didn't take long for my family and I to become hooked. Yes, the games were a lot of fun to watch, but the thing that really impressed me was the community that surrounded the ballpark and the games. Every interaction was pleasant and had a strong sense of family. The tickets and food were affordable. The mood was positive, fun, and family friendly. There weren't traffic jams and the parking was convenient. My family and I have made lifelong friends at Emeralds games. I have been involved in several of the community initiatives that the Emeralds have supported. My kids have been inspired by the amazing talent and positive role models that the Emeralds have had on their rosters year after year. Since having the opportunity to throw out the first pitch at his first Emerald game at the age of 6, my now 12-year-old son Parker was inspired to play baseball. Starting out with kids sports, he has moved through the levels of the Cal Ripken Babe Ruth organization, culminating this year in earning a spot on the Willamette Valley Babe Ruth 12U All-Star team, who won the state championship and placed third in the Pacific Northwest Regional Championship this past weekend in Washington. Baseball has given Parker confidence, discipline, and an entire community of new friends and family. It has forever positively impacted our lives. And the Emeralds inspired this. The Emeralds are a very important part of this community. They are Eugene. We need to work and find a way to keep this great part of our city. You cannot put a price on community enrichment. It literally changes lives. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next, we will hear from Emma Spratt, followed by Randolph Nelson.
Good evening, Council and Mayor Vennis. My name is Emma Spratt. I'm a lifelong Eugenian. I live in Ward 2. I also grew up in Ward 2. I'm also a small business owner here in Eugene. I own a small pet grooming salon. I came out to represent the average citizen of Lane County and our passion for our minor league baseball team, as well as our full support and commitment for the construction of the fantastic multi-use stadium at the aging Lane County Fairgrounds. The fairgrounds will get developed. It's just a matter of time. And I'd much rather it be done by an organization with deep local roots like the Eugene Emeralds. I had a whole list of statistics I considered reading to you about baseball and how it supports our local economy. But honestly, you know all that. And if you don't, I'll email it to you. But it's impossible to ignore the economic and cultural importance of this team that we have held dear since 1955. The deadline to keep our ball team is getting closer and closer. We're in the bottom of the 9th, and if you don't act fast, we will lose our team. Lack of action is action. Lack of action is a choice. The repercussions of that choice is the loss of local culture, and to be frank, it's one of the very few unifying activities that we have in a severely politically and socially divided world, a divide that Eugene's not immune to. I spent my summers growing up at M's games since before I could walk at the old Civic Stadium. Those games mean the world to me, my family, my 6-year-old daughter. We're not an anomaly. We're the average Eugenian, and it's really important to us. I'm a little disappointed that I have to be here tonight. I keep waiting to hear the great news that you guys have approved the plans proposed by the Emeralds. I have a family that I'd rather be at home with right now, but I'm just glad that this was held on an off night, so I don't have to miss a ball game to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Next, we will hear from speaker number 10, Randolph Nelson, followed by Barry Noble.
I represent Ward 1, and I want to point out the breakfasts that they're serving down in Washington Jefferson Park. I think that we're being harassed, or they're being harassed for bringing this food down, and not just the food, but it's a community example that Eugene does care for people down there that are struggling. I think that we can judge a society and a community by how good we take care of our weaker people, or people that can't survive, that need the help of the other people, like the top people. And when we start pushing them away, I don't know what kind of example we're setting or trying to tell them people, and other people are seeing our community that are taking care of our weak and misfortunate. I don't see why there's any problem at all why people can't come down and help feed these people. That means a lot to them, not just a meal, but maybe even sitting on the bench and talking to someone that might have had a bad night, or they might have whatever the circumstances is. There's some good people that come down there and do this in the first place. I just want to point this out to you people, because I know our city council cares. Eugene's a great place, and that's how we should be judged as a great place, is taking care of our weak and misfortunate. Thank you.
Thank you, Randolph. Next, we will hear from Barry Noble, followed by Deborah McGee.
Hi, good evening. My name is Barry Noble, and for the past several years, I've volunteered on Wednesdays serving breakfast in the Washington Jefferson Park. And before that, I volunteered at Emerald Village, Eugene, and I've also volunteered at Opportunity Village. I really value my experiences getting to know people who are in need of more adequate shelter. I think they value it also. And as a mediator for Lane County before I retired, did that for more than 20 years, I really want to encourage more communication between the people involved there, the neighborhood, the council, the people who are in need of more shelter, the volunteers, and other community members. I think there are two important steps if we could come together and communicate. The first is to understand each other more deeply. And the second is to be resourceful in coming up with ideas that have not been considered yet. I know in my decades of experience as a mediator, many times ideas were put forward and successful ideas that really hadn't been considered before. So I believe that solutions can be found and that the breakfasts can continue to be served and people continue to be fed. I'd ask you to please open your minds and hearts to finding ways to continue feeding those in need of food and shelter and serving in Washington Jefferson Park. And finally, thank you for all that you do and all that you have done to make this community as viable and as wonderful as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Next speaker on the list is Deborah McGee. Deborah, I do not see you in Zoom. If you are in Zoom, please make sure your name matches the name you used to sign up with. I will call you one more time after our next speaker, Lisa Levson. Is there a Lisa Levson in the room? Yes, excellent, thank you.
Mayor and city councilors and city staff. Oh, do I need to be closer? All right, I'll start over again. Hello, Mayor Vennis, city councilors and city staff. It is good to be with you tonight. I am a board member with Breakfast Brigade, and I'm also an active volunteer with that same group. We serve breakfast in Washington Jefferson Park, Wednesday through Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. We're a Food for Lane County partner, and our fiscal sponsor is Burrito Brigade. We've been doing this for 9 years with some different names to our organization. We were formerly Eugene Catholic Workers, and before that, there was also a group called Badass Feeding Frenzy that also fed in the park. So for 9 years, we've been feeding some of the same people. Sadly, some of the same people that we see every day in this park. And up until recently, that was a celebrated event by our community. We've had several of our city councilors, Councilor Ye, Councilor Groves, and Councilor Keating come down and serve with us during COVID, and we appreciated their support. But ever since the homeless were moved out of the parks post-COVID, the Parks Department has asked us to leave the park. They gave us a list of demands, which we have met. They asked us to not have garbage. We haul out all of our own trash. They asked us to park safely. We park safely. They said we didn't have liability insurance because we didn't have a permit, but we can't get a permit. You can't apply for the permit. So we do have liability insurance through our fiscal sponsor. The only criteria that we have not fulfilled is getting a permit, which cannot be granted because the Parks Department has decided that no permit will be given to a benevolent feeding agency in the group. And the police department came down and threatened to arrest our volunteers, including an 82-year-old woman who serves 5 days a week. We'd like to work through this with parks and we'd like to find a viable solution and we are asking for your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I do not see Deborah McGee in the Zoom still. So next we will move on to Suzanne O'Shea, followed by Alan McWayne.
Whoops, I'm trying to start the video. Hi, my name is Suzanne O'Shea. I live in Ward 6, represented by Greg Evans. I am a member of the Active Bethel Community Neighborhood Association, but here to represent my own views. And I'm asking that the City Council support the actions of the Breakfast Brigade. They have been trying to serve the homeless and the needy for several years under the Jefferson Washington Bridge, and using their own resources and their own labor. And I just really don't see any reason that they should be harassed by the police. I also would like the City Council to be very cautious in the actions that they are taking towards the rental. I'm sorry, I forgot what it's called. The rental protection updates. I lived in San Francisco for several years. They have very strict laws protecting the renters over the landlords. And what that has caused is that several landlords have taken their rental property off the market, which depletes the housing resources available to the community. And especially the ones that provide low rents, they have more of a risk and less of a advantage, so they just take them off the market. And I hope that you're not headed in that direction. As far as Active Bethel Community, I would like the City Council to provide environmental protection to our neighborhood, to support the DEQ, EPA, and agencies like Beyond Toxics against industries such as J.H. Baxter and the fuel tank storage, and provide seismic stability to those tanks, and support the public health overlay zone and the Bethel area plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Next, we will hear from Alan McWayne, our 15th speaker, followed by Robert Stevens, Sr.
Alan McWayne, Ward 2. Good evening, Mayor and councilors. Like the three previous Emeralds fans, I also support the team, but I think there's a better location. Lane County would not be planning a $100 million stadium without constant promotion by the M's. I'm surprised that the LEC has not completed their master plan and there will be no public vote. 65% of residents oppose this in 2 surveys. A local business group is now concerned about the lack of transparency without even a projected operating budget or revenue stream. LEC has continually underestimated the scope of this plan to minimize the impact on taxpayers. The cost has grown from $40 million to over $100 million. Size has grown from 5 acres to almost 13 acres. Capacity from 4,000 baseball fans to 12,000 concert goers. From 66 home baseball games to now over total 120 events. The timeline from 2024 to 2026. And the horse arena would now be demolished without the $10 million to rebuild it. Numerous studies have questioned the impact of sports facilities on economic growth. As resistance grows from voters, most recently in Tempe, Arizona, and Las Vegas, there are now 40 vacant minor league stadiums where cities have invested almost $300 million. The M's were a local team in 1955, but are now owned by ESG, a multi-million-dollar California conglomerate, which owns 132 companies, including 9 teams, and moved 3 of these teams out of their hometowns recently. Yet ESG has not offered to invest in any of the current $43 million shortfall. The M's could have chosen many other sites like Glenwood, but chose LEC because public funds would be used to benefit their private franchise. They rejected the other sites because they wanted to be in the heart of Eugene, yet they left Civic in 2009 because they didn't want to spend $10 million to upgrade that historic stadium. Instead, they moved to PK Park, which was built by the U of O with public funds. ESG has tried a previous venture in Pennsylvania, convincing Northampton County and investors to build a $10 million ball yard stadium. That failed and was demolished in 2005 as an illegal franchise.
Thank you, Alan. Your time is concluded. Next, we will hear from Robert Stevens, followed by John Roberts.
My name is Robert Stevens. I'm here about gang stalking. 2003, I was in prison for a sexual crime, and I did my time for that. And now I find myself being stalked, accosted, threatened my life. People, my friends have been, their lives have been threatened, and I don't know what else I can do to bring. I see pillars of the community stalking me, and I just got out of county today, and they're on me already. I just know that I've done my time. I've changed my life. I'm no longer the old, I call it a monster, but no longer that person anymore. I like to be treated as an equal, and I'm not being treated like that. And to come up here in front of everyone and tell you my backstory, it's down in public knowledge. You can come down and Robert Daniel Stevens Sr. Come down and see for yourself for what I've done. I try to help the community now. I do my best to help when people need help, and I'm not the same person I used to be. And to come up and to acknowledge this, to do a background check. That's what you do. You're not doing background checks. If you think you know who you're dealing with, then go and find out who you're dealing with, because I don't want any problems. And I know people that are out here that are trying to make a we made mistakes. I made a mistake. I made many mistakes, but I paid for those. And I just want to be left alone, and I just want to try to help and not hinder. So if all these guys that are out here watching that are and people that are doing all the stalking things, please lay out. It's not going to get good. If it keeps on going on like this, there's going to be some. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that I'm not going to keep on being accosted, and I don't want no problems. But it seems like they're pushing to that. I'm not a hostile person. I'm a teddy bear. I've changed myself, and to have everyone that's the homeless. I don't feel safe. I feel safe in my own community. This is my community. I'm here, and to be.
Thank you, Robert. Your time is concluded. Next, we will hear from John Roberts, followed by Billy Harper.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm John Roberts from Ward 2, here again to talk more about renter protections that are on tonight's agenda. I want to give props and kudos to the council and staff for the large amount of work that's gone into the renter protections, and acknowledge that some significant improvements have been made. Nevertheless, I'm going to encourage the council to vote down the ordinance as currently proposed and go back to the drawing board, particularly with respect to relocation assistance. I think there's still too great a risk of unintended consequences. And I think the loss of, or the penalization of no-cause evictions during the first year of tenancy is a mistake. No-cause evictions and terminations are an important safety valve, particularly in that first year for tenancy relationships that aren't a good fit. Just for example, imagine the Donald Trump style tenant who hurls creative epithets at his female landlord. That doesn't rise likely to the level of a for-cause termination, forcing that woman to decide if she has to pay this obnoxious tenant to get him out. Or imagine an African-American landlord who has a tenant that fills the rental unit with Ku Klux Klan paraphernalia and accompanies each rental check with a racial epithet. Again, this is likely not a breach of the contract and doesn't rise level of for-cause termination. There are times when it's simply not a good relationship between tenant and landlord, and of no cause termination is the appropriate remedy. This statute penalizes that, discourages that, and I fear will discourage landlords from getting into the business. Whatever the city decides to do with rental protections in this phase and with relocation assistance in particular, I hope the city continues to focus on the real driver of our current crisis, the severe lack of housing at all levels, at all income levels, and of all types. There's a lot we could do as a city to expand our current supply, but it means looking at all solutions and moving past slogans and looking at real solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, we will hear from Billy Harper, followed by Wayne Martin.
Billy Harper. I'm presenting Ward 1, Mayor, Council. I'm here to represent food under the bridge. First learned about it when after got out of incarceration prison, lost my mom and then lost my grandma, and there's no comfort when when some of the best people that cook for you, you love your mom and parents' food. And so I became homeless, and learning when you're on the street, cold, everything, no coffee, nothing. The people under the bridge provided that. And learning that they're being evicted, I was like, who in the world would evict people that's helping homeless people? And such a people who are working hard to get back on their feet. And with me, just I would go and try to help out with cleanup after they feed everybody. I volunteer on Sundays at the homeless food box on 30 Monroe, and now with people trying to get rid of people that are trying to help people that want to get out of the street. I was thankful I was able to focus on that, got myself into my feet after they kicked everybody off under the bridge. I was there for a year or so. My girlfriend ended up passing away from COVID, and at that time too, we left the park to 410, which was I think was okay, but I'd rather be under the bridge, close to hot food fresh food in the morning, pancakes, blueberry pancakes. Ooh, I love this. And then and the other part I wanted to do, I support about the Emeralds at the park. I have 5 kids. They love going to the games, and I support for the move there. Don't get rid of them. And then and I want to say thank you for the opportunity here to speak. I only came to listen, but Wayne got me to speak up here, and thank you guys.
Thank you, Billy. Next, we will hear from Wayne Martin, followed by Sandy Mann.
I'm simply here to endorse the feeding of breakfasts and, oh, I'm sorry, Wayne Martin, Ward 1. I'm here to endorse the testimonies of others who have already brought the benefits to your attention of us serving breakfasts. We are averaging on any given day between 60 and 70 patrons, but I've done a count on my own, and during the week, we average about 135 differing guests because not everybody comes every day. 135 patrons who are starving. They're at the bottom of the barrel. There are people who haven't had a safe place to sleep in years, 3-4 years. The 20 that I have gotten to know on a regular basis and have kind of chaplained them in many ways, tend to have had family trauma in their earliest years and have not been able to fully recover from that. We're talking about loss of a parent or leavings of parents. And they pool their Social Security income, and about 4 or so of 15 have that come and they just simply share it together to get themselves through the day. They definitely appreciate the bag lunches that they get. Many of them cannot go to a crowded space indoors, such as the dining hall. I think I want to wrap up my words by referring you to a psychiatrist who's become very internationally very well known. His name is Dr. Gabor Mate. You may have seen the name. I recommend that you go to his page. He recognizes that most homeless people have suffered childhood trauma. He recognizes that many addicts have suffered childhood trauma. And we have those. We actually have addicts who need attention. They need some guidance. They need some friendship, and they need respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Next, we will hear from Sandy Mann, our 20th speaker, followed by Alan Benavides.
Is it okay if I sit down? Do I have the option? Good. I don't want to stand up. Can everybody hear me? I'm not used to using the mic. Okay, my name is Sandy Mann. I own property in a couple of different wards, so I don't want to elaborate. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, and staff. Thank you for being here and having a public forum. First of all, I want to apologize for my appearance. I'm carrying 30 pounds of water weight. Do I want to be carrying that? No. That's the way it's been for the last 3 summers. I'm allergic to the sun. Lucky me. Okay, I want to speak to the possible elimination. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Elimination of the Burrito Brigade breakfast program, as I think it's referred to as. Okay, no one here that I know of asked to be born, including myself. So therefore, I conclude that everyone deserves the right to eat healthy, balanced, and nutritious food. Otherwise, what would you do? Relegate people to garbage cans and refuse? Do you want to be known as a city that does that and arrest people for serving breakfast to people that can't afford to buy food? If you're a human being and have any feelings at all, and I don't see anybody here that looks like they're artificial intelligence, correct me if I'm mistaken, I urge you to do the right thing. And I think you all know what that is. Thank you, Spike Lee, for doing the right thing. So, in my opinion, I think I'm not a member of the City Council or Lane County Commissioners, Board of Commissioners yet. So, I urge you all to do the right thing. So just do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Next, we will hear from Alan Benavides, followed by Gabriel Scott.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. Thanks for the time. I'd like to say thanks to the supporters that have been bombarding you guys with emails, and also to Alan and the opposition that are for this project. It's really going to take a community to get this going, and we're really excited to hopefully get this going. But we are in our 11th hour in trying to get a facility built. You know, we've been here since 1955, almost 70 years of family entertainment and affordable fun. But with Major League Baseball guidelines that have taken place in 2020, we are in an environment at PK Park that we can't be there much longer. It's just, there's shortage of locker room space, female space. It's out of all the minor league teams in the country, PK Park ranks 3rd worst in facilities for the players. So it's not like it's a small thing, it's a major thing. People often ask, why can't the Giants help? Well, the Giants provide our professional baseball players. They pay those salaries, they pay their benefits, they pay their wages, which has got a 70% increase. Without the Giants, we're simply an amateur wood baseball team that Councilor Groves could come try out for, which I'm sure you'd be great at. But it's, you know, it's just, without the Giants in Major League Baseball, we're just not going to have, big leaguers that played here in Eugene. In fact, we had 6 big leaguers that are in Major League Baseball that played right here in Eugene last year. I just want to, talk that we don't have addressed what Alan said earlier. Our ownership took hold in 1983, and they're one of the most dynamic ownership groups. They allow us to do all our Pride events, our Monarcha events, all our community engagement. They truly strive for us to be a dynamic partner, and I just commend them for being so great with us. Deb Michaels, who lives in Jefferson West Side, has suggested that we partner with Burrito Brigade. And it's funny that you guys are here because to use the facilities and the kitchens at the new stadium so that they can work out of there. Hotel rooms, that's a big thing people are talking about. In 2019, we did about 3,000 rooms. Eco Northwest is forecasting that we'll do about 20,000 rooms. And we've been paying hotel tax this whole time while we've been here. For 70 years, we've been doing this. Our economic output was about 8.7 million in 2019. It's going to balloon to about 75 million. We can do this. We know it's going to be tough, but we really need your help. Otherwise, we're going to lose this team. And I really, really thank all the supporters that have been emailing us and whatnot. And I know that we don't have the answers, and I know there's not a vote coming up, and I know it's a tough decision. But we got to try to figure something out because we need your help to make this happen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alan. Next, we will hear from Gabriel Scott, followed by Timothy Williams.
Thank you for the opportunity. Gabriel Scott, Ward 1. I live there with my wife and kids. I'm here to testify about primarily about the Breakfast Brigade, although I also support the M's. It is a recreational component is important to the community. As a father, I just got to say. So I'll tell you two things. One is what led me or why I volunteer on Wednesday mornings at the Breakfast Brigade. I'll just tell you why I do that in real simple terms and what I see there. Why I do what led me there was like many people, it's church, St. Mary's Catholic Church downtown. Led me past, my priest led me to Wayne, led me to the one group, led me to another, to an opportunity to just do works of mercy. Just real simple, feed the hungry, which I've found to be quite difficult to find those opportunities. It's one of those things that oughtn't to be so hard to just try to do something good, but it really is. And this is an opportunity to do that. I brought the Pope's Fratelli Tutti, hoping to find the perfect quote to share with you, but I'll spare you that. But I do recommend the book. It is addressed to everyone. A model of politics that really embraces love and community. I think that Eugene, you certainly have that capacity on this group. So I know that a solution can be had with the Breakfast Brigade here. This is real simple. What I see there is it's as simple as it could possibly be. It's just good people sharing food. It seems to develop like a family picnic would. Everything is carefully done. The food is always very high quality. Everything is meticulously clean. Everyone wears gloves. It is peaceful. We can't escape everyone, but very nearly. More so, I would say, an attorney, more so than you would find in a courtroom. Everyone is well behaved, disciplined, and we all deal with the hand we're dealt. We all wake up in the morning, dealt some hand, and we've got to go through a day. And I suggest that there are people in this community that are waking up with days a lot harder than others of us, right? And what I see under the bridge are people of tremendous ability and discipline doing a good job of being better. And I hope the city can find it I know we can find it in our heart to allow.
Thank you, Gabriel. Your time is concluded. Next, we will hear from Timothy Williams, followed by Joni Flaherty.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Williams. I live in Ward 7. I currently reside in a motel by choice. It's kind of a middle ground for the work that I seem to find myself doing. And that's what I stand here for us today, just to encourage you as a council and encourage the people that have come to keep the dialogue going, because I've heard good rapports, I've heard bad rapports, just as I'm sure you have, but I still just want to say I'm encouraged that we have a council and we have a community that keeps talking. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy. And next we will hear from Joni Flaherty, followed by Sammy Rothage.
Very short. Mayor Venice, Council, thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you. Like Gabe, I'm a volunteer. I work on Tuesdays at making sandwiches, and I am not the only one. I work with between 8 and 15 people at First Congregational Church, and my counterpart Rich Green works at Garden Way Church. And we make approximately 300 sandwiches a week, which means that thus far this year, we've made over 8,000 sandwiches. And our purpose is to feed the hungry, those most vulnerable in our community. Most of these are the unhoused, those living on the streets. And I sometimes wonder why our inability to be permitted by recreation and open spaces is not more questioned by the council, because we cost the city nothing. We volunteer. We do this on our own time. We ask for nothing from you except a permit. And I originally wrote in my little note or scribble here, it says, and not to be harassed by the Eugene Police Department or the NSO. But I do ask for one thing. I would like us to be permitted, except that Open Spaces has told us they're not giving out permits, but the police will ticket us and arrest us if we don't have a permit. So we're in this kind of hellscape of being damned if you do and damned if you do. And we're going to get arrested and we'll go to jail, and you'll see a bunch of septuagenarians and octogenarians in jail, because that's what we were asked to do, to feed the hungry, to take care of those most vulnerable. And I don't think any of you want that. I think you're all good people who want good things for your city. So thank you for listening. And
thank you, Joni. Your time is concluded. Next, we will hear from Sammy Rothage, followed by our final speaker, Maya Lazaro.
Hi, Mayor and City Council. My name is Sammy Rothage, and I'm from Ward 1. And I just like to say, please don't take our food away from the people, and allow us to continue to be able to have breakfast in the open space. Thank you.
Thank you, Sammy. Next, we will hear from our final speaker, Maya Lazaro. Maya, go ahead and unmute.
There we go. Thank you. Hello, my name is Maya Lazaro. I'm a resident of Ward 6 in the active Bethel community, and I'm here to voice my support for 3 initiatives that would positively impact the Bethel community. The first initiative I'd like to advocate for is the creation of a public health overlay zone for Bethel. These types of zones ensure that future land development projects promote a healthy environment and improved quality of life for surrounding neighborhoods. Most of the large polluters in Eugene are located in West Eugene along the industrial corridors of Highway 99 and Roosevelt Boulevard, close to schools, parks, and residential areas. The city can prevent the next J.H. Baxter by proactively addressing polluters by building protections such as the public health overlay zone into our local land use codes. I'm also here to support the renaming of Active Bethel Citizens to Active Bethel Community. The word citizens can feel exclusionary and may discourage residents from engaging with their neighborhood association. The word community, on the other hand, encompasses all Bethel residents. Community captures a sense of fellowship and belonging, precisely what we want to cultivate here. This name change would cost virtually nothing, but go a long way toward fostering inclusion. Finally, I'd like to advocate for the adoption of a new Bethel neighborhood plan. Bethel has not updated its neighborhood plan since 1982, and it faces challenges such as pollution, a dearth of bike lanes and sidewalks, and lack of development. I believe all neighborhoods in Eugene deserve to have their needs addressed, but Bethel's needs, particularly in regards to pollution, are urgent. Prioritizing the adoption of a new neighborhood plan for Bethel is not only equitable, but would improve public health in Eugene. Since it looks like I have some extra time, I'd also like to say that I support the work that the Burrito Brigade is doing to feed the hungry, and I hope that the city can find a solution that allows them to serve nutritious meals to our neediest residents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Maya. Mayor, that was our final speaker.
Okay, thank you very, very much. I deeply appreciate all of you who took the time to testify today on really sort of three big issues, right? The capacity to feed people who are hungry, and the location of the M's, and some concern about rental protection. So appreciate all of you taking the time to testify. Are there counselors with questions or comments? Counselor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for everyone who showed up tonight or Zoomed in to testify. A lot of heart was shown tonight. First of all, the Burrito Brigade, I did enjoy the short period of time that I was able to spend with you. It's been a while ago now with Councilor Keating and Councilor Ye, and seeing how the service worked. My question for the city manager, I understand if we open up the park to one group, we have to open it up to others. Are there other options that may be out there? And I don't necessarily need an answer right now, but just, are there other ways to go about this and accomplish what they're seeking to do that maybe protects how we use certain spaces, which is what I'm assuming is going on here?
Happy to follow up.
Great, thank you. Second, I want to talk about the Eugene Emeralds. And I appreciate everybody who's spoken in favor of helping to ensure they stay here. I think the Eugene Emeralds are a very important part of our community. I am very grateful for the work that Alan Benavides and his staff, the players, and the fans do for this community. And it's so much more than the average person recognizes. It is part of the fiber of this community that makes it a great place to be. And I am very eager to hear more what we can look at. I know city manager, we talked last week, and you mentioned that staff was working up just to give us an idea of some options so we could have a discussion. And I'd be interested to know how that's coming. And considering we're going on break after Wednesday and the deadline's it's looming, what we can do to expedite and at least understand what we're looking at and what the possibilities are.
Wednesday, before you go on break, that I would give you an update on that project. So staff's working right now. They met with the county this morning to get more information. So it'll be a general project update. Here's what the plan is. Here's what their plan is. Here's what the gap is, and some just general tools that council has to consider.
Great, thank you. And I know we are in a tough financial situation right now, especially with our general fund. At the same time, ongoing costs are different than one-time monies. And I'm really eager to see and learn more about this so that we can have a good dialogue at council and see what can be done. But this is something that is important to us. I've heard somebody mention leaving Civic Stadium. I am the former fire chief. I was there the day Civic Stadium burned down. Thank God we didn't have people in the stadium, because we wouldn't have gotten everyone out. Leaving Civic Stadium was something that had to happen. I love that facility, raised my family going to games, but at the same time, that thing burned so much faster than we had even anticipated it burning. And we would have lost lives that day had that been occupied for an Mscape. So they had to go. I'm glad they did. They need to leave again, and we need to find hopefully a space for them. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, thanks. Of course, it burned down because it was abandoned and kids got in there and playing with fire. City manager, when we come back on Wednesday, besides the things that you said, those are great. Can you also address why the project increased the way it did? It was pretty dramatic. And what's the plan for supporting it financially on an ongoing basis? It's great to build it, but you got to have it work over time. And address the issue of the long-term commitment from the M's. If we're going to, as a community, put that much effort and that much money into something, we need to have reciprocal commitment from the M's. So address that issue as well. Thanks.
I'll get you what I can.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from council? Thank you all again for bringing your comments. I think we look forward to more information and appreciate the information we might get about alternatives for the breakfast. The issue, I think, really is location and capacity there. And so thank you all. All right, with that, I think we're ready to move on to our our single action item, and I'm going to turn it over to the council president to put in motion on.
Okay, as council president, I'm going to make this motion. Move to adopt an ordinance concerning rental housing, amending sections 8.405, 8.415, 8.425, 8.430, and 8.440 of the Eugene Code 1971, and adding section 8.437 to that code.
Second.
Okay, is there discussion or comment on the motion? Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to have somebody, I guess staff, I suppose in this case, is this adopting, I was under the impression that we were going to bring back for a future public hearing those things that we had added and detracted from in previous discussions around rental housing protection. Am I understanding correctly that we're looking at passing what we put together in the last work session or not with this motion?
Yeah, so what we talked about through the work sessions is that the updates you were making would be incorporated into a new draft ordinance that you would take action on at a future date. There was some discussion about potentially having another public hearing, but that ultimately we didn't have a motion for that. And so I think based on all of the public hearing you've had before, we determined you don't need a second public hearing. If you need us to walk through any of the changes that are in there, we can do that.
Thank you. It seems premature to me to do this and drop it right in front of our break. But I know that we've spent a lot of time talking about it. I know that there's been a lot of testimony about this. And I know that there are a lot of people trying to do a lot of things that are of real sincere care and good intentions on their part. I want to urge my colleagues to vote no on this tonight, which doesn't preclude something we might bring back of a different nature another day. But I really, really want to urge my colleagues to vote no on this today. I believe that we don't have as good a set of certainty around the consequences that will come. As somebody who works in this area, I can say I'm utterly convinced this will have a negative effect on precisely the people it's intended to be a benefit for. This will harm renters across our city in a catastrophic way. I'm trying not to use hyperbole here. I really believe that the amount of rental housing that we will lose will be substantial, which will drive prices up. We can't repeal the laws of supply and demand here. And this will dramatically affect supply. I had hoped we would see, other than come back in 2 years, metrics around this that would measure all of the things we're hoping to do and a chance to look at it before now. I think it would have been a more reasonable opportunity to agree with this if we had. But the potential harm is huge to everyday renters. And we won't know some of the things we need to know about its impacts as we go. I appreciated Alan's motions around that. But I can't emphasize this strongly enough. I think the harm will be substantial, and I hope my colleagues will vote no for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I have Councilor Groves and then Councilor Zelenka.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Councilor Clark, for what you said. You articulated my worries as well. I know that my colleagues and everybody's staff has worked on this in good faith, trying to do the right thing. I'm just not sure this is it. Especially with everything that's going on at the state level. I do worry about changing the availability of rentals on the market. And the reality is it's the shortage of housing that's causing a lot of the supply and demand economics that are driving up the costs. Certainly we have some bad actors probably on both sides of the fence. And I wish we could just surgically address those without having the sweeping policies that are, I think, going to have an adverse impact on the people we are trying to help. Therefore, I'm still battling with this in my own mind, but I am leaning towards no, voting no on this just for those reasons. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Zelenka and then Councilor Evans.
Yeah, I was the one who proposed another public hearing, and that was months ago. And I was hoping that we would have at our last public hearing when it was available, but the notice periods weren't available for that because of the timeline. And so put us in the circumstance of having to delay this until sometime in late fall to go into effect. And by then we would miss like a whole year's worth of leases that were going to go into effect in the fall, which would be substantial. So I withdrew the motion of having to do a public hearing because of that. I think we've had an enormous amount of conversation about this and heard a lot, and we've changed things in reaction to that and added things and deleted things. Is the 2-year review, is that in the ordinance?
I don't think so. That was a separate motion.
Yeah, so I was wondering how that gets handled. Is that just something that passed and we're gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that doesn't need to be in the ordinance. 'Cause I
Direction
didn't see-
given to me that we'll do it.
Okay. So with that, I'm ready to proceed with this. The reason the 2-year review is in there, so that's by the end of 2 years. There's a lot of stuff that's changed here, and we want to let it settle, see what happens, look at unintended consequences, see what happened to the rental market in a grander scale and then specific, and then come back within 2 years, not after 2 years, and look at this and see if there are things we need to adjust. Did we get it absolutely right? I don't know. That's why we're doing the review. But I'm willing to move forward with it as it is right now.
Thank you. Councilor Evans and then Councilor Leach.
Actually, Mayor, I'll let Councilor Leach go before me. I want to hear what she has to say.
All right, Councilor Leach.
Before I begin, I have to declare my potential conflict of interest. I own 2 rental units in the city of Eugene. Therefore, pursuant to ORS 244.120, I'm declaring the potential conflict of interest with regard to the Phase 2 renter protections ordinance because portions of the relocation assistance proposed as part of the Phase 2 ordinance could result in financial detriment to me as a landlord if a triggering event occurs that entitles my tenants to relocation assistance. Because I only have a potential conflict of interest, I've been advised by the city attorney that I am allowed to fully participate in this discussion and the action on this ordinance. So that being said, I am a landlord. I believe in renter protections. I think we're at a really critical moment in our community right now that people are becoming homeless because of no-cause evictions. Do I share my concerns with my other colleagues that have concerns about the rental housing market? Yes, I do, but I think we need to look at an emergent situation and stop people becoming homeless right now. Do we need to look at the data in 2 years and make sure that we are doing the right thing? Absolutely. I'm very much in support of analyzing new data that we will have in 2 years. But I am ready to move forward with this ordinance and in support of it.
Thank you. Now, Councilor Evans.
I'm not really as comfortable with where we are on this ordinance right now. I am concerned about the housing supply, as Councilor Groves and Councilor Clark have already mentioned, and the effect that it will have on our supply. I mean, we are trying to balance the needs of renters with the
realistic concerns that landlords have. And mostly I'm looking at how this ultimately affects smaller landlords and landlords who are just basically, getting by. They may have one unit, a couple of units to rent. But at the same token, we're trying to make sure that renters are treated fairly. And I've been in a position of being a renter, being a homeowner, and in having someone who lived with our family temporarily as a renter several years ago. So I am, to be perfectly honest with you right now, I'm not ready to move forward on this. And I'm having a really tough time in terms of what our next steps are. I would rather have taken the route of Councilor Zelenka and have another public hearing on the proposed changes in the ordinance that we have in front of us tonight. I would really like to have that opportunity before I would vote on this, but I don't think we got that opportunity right now. So I will do what I think is best in this situation, and then we'll see where the chips fall from there.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I have second rounds, but I'm actually going to insert myself in here for a minute because I just want to remind everybody that this process started in 2018. And there is no shortage of data, concern, testimony. We have put a lot of time into this, that every delay impacts people who are very vulnerable in a merciless rental market in this community. This was put forward because tenants are suffering. If they weren't suffering, this would not have been a sustained issue that has come back to council now for 5 years. So I would urge action now. I think there's been an enormous amount of input here. It's very thoughtful. The staff has collected incredible amount of data for all of you to support this decision. You have an opportunity to revisit it really at any time, but certainly with the collection of more data. And I would urge you just to move forward. I do not believe that another month, 2 months, 3 months is going to add significantly to your knowledge, but it will add to the number of people who are vulnerable in our community. And I think action is very important. So I would encourage you to pass this. With that, I will turn to the second rounds. I've got Councilor Clark and Councilor Zelenka.
Thank you, Mayor. Something that will come as a shock, I am sure, to absolutely no one. I absolutely feel exactly the opposite as the mayor on this. Passing this tonight will increase radically the number of people hurt in our community. It will help nearly none. Manager, one of the things that we talked in some detail about this last time was about, and I thank Councilor Zelenka for adding this, the word impacts. So you've had a week or so now to think about what that reporting might include. It is my contention as a professional in this field that we will see a radical change and a significant decrease in the number of available rental units in this market. I already know from working with this, the number of people who own rentals in Eugene that are now beginning the process of selling them. As a professional, I make money, much like Councilor Leach as a landlord, I make money in the financing world from people who sell and then buy a home instead of renting it. So actually, if this passes, I make more money. That's my personal level of interest. But it's horrible policy because of the number of people it will hurt and the amount of opportunities that people who can only rent will be denied in our community with significantly fewer rentals. Manager, my question, can you talk about how you've begun to have conversations about how to measure impacts. For example, will you know when people sell rental units in our community? If so, how or can you keep track of that? So that's one of the impacts we can talk about later. Or there's Will.
So,
hey, Will.
Oh, sorry. I'll jump in here, Will. We have had some conversations. Most of the last couple of weeks have been working to kind of get this to you. So we haven't done a ton of it, but we did talk about the challenges. There's some definite challenges with the amount of data that we have available to us and what we can track. But we understand we have the need to set a pretty quick baseline so that in 2 years you really understand that. So we're just starting to kind of dig into that and figure out where we might need to draw from. But I think it will be challenging to fill out all of those details that you're pointing out.
Is there any way to know the number of evictions that will happen as a consequence of tonight's action if this passes? Because I suspect there will be quite a lot of people who decide when we pass this to sell their rental units and thus evict the current tenants.
I don't know that information. Will, if you actually know that specific detail, feel free to jump in, but
we won't have that number specifically, but we will look for finding out about that in a couple of key ways. One will be through eviction reporting. If it's connected to a sale, then we will mark that down. We will be very interested in the cause of any of evictions. The other would be through working with Tenant Hotline and tracking that information, that any information they have through that.
When you say Tenant Hotline, you're talking about the Democratic Party folks that work at the Springfield Eugene Tenants Association?
We have a contract with CETA. That's
what I'm talking about. Who have an interest politically and otherwise in not giving you the information that we're talking about.
I would say that
they're the ones who brought up this in the renter protections in the first place.
We're talking about the same group. We're talking about them differently, and we'll work with them to get any information that they can provide on numbers.
I hope you will search for an objective means of data that show the number of people evicted based on this. I don't know how we'll do an evaluation at some future point about its success or failure without objective data that doesn't come from the people who were advocating this for months in the first place, as the mayor mentioned, since 2018. I appreciate anything you can do, though. Thank you.
All right. Councilor Zelenka, I'm just going to hold and let Councilor Ye have her first round. And then I've got Councilor Zelenka and Councilor Evans.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'm going to apologize. I'm trying to do this on my phone and hopefully I don't look weird. So I just wanted to take a second to, I think the mayor said this started in 2018, but I'm actually think it started back in 2016 because I think it was going on before I joined council. And I wanted to take a moment to recognize how far we've come in all of those years, how many times we have spoken to the public, some of those privately with staff or with counselors or in forums or hearings. I don't think that this ordinance is everything I wanted, but I think it's a good compromise and people were listened to and things were changed to a point where I'm comfortable moving forward with it, especially with Alan's 2-year review and potentially earlier, right? That's the latest we can do it, not the earliest. So if we're hearing things and we need to come back and take a look, I think that's perfectly reasonable for us to do. But you know, an equitable community is built on having affordable, stable, and accessible housing. And when we have a renter and landlord power imbalance, that is not, the renters are the ones who have the higher risk of instability. So I think these changes in our community are going to make a hugely positive effect. And we'll see that in our 10-year or earlier review. So I'm happy to support it tonight. I hope my colleagues will too. And I just want to thank everyone who has gone on this very long road with us.
Thank you. All right, now I'll circle back, have Counselor Zelenka and Counselor Evans with second rounds.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I don't believe Councilor Clark is right. Despite the fear and rhetoric around that, he's entitled to his opinion, but I don't believe that's what's going to happen. We haven't seen that in other communities. I think what this does is it levels the playing field for a lot of people, and it will have a minimal impact. And I agree with Councilor Ye. I think we've been working on this for more than 5 years, probably around 7 years. So it's not as if this is a new issue that all of a sudden popped up and we're ramming it through and rushing it to a deadline. We've been working on this for a very, very long time. And we've had probably one of the most robust comments through email and personal contacts and all these other ways and public hearings that we've had on an issue in a very long time. And we are actually following our process. It's actually atypical to have 2 public hearings on one issue. I was actually hard pressed to actually think of another time we did that. But our typical process is to put a proposal out, have a public hearing, listen to what people said, revise it if it needs to be, which we did, and then take action. And that's the process that we're adhering to today. So this is our typical, usual practice about how we dispose of issues. And, you know, preaching for delay tactics just to muddy the waters even more and missing an entire season of rental properties for all of the people associated with the University of Oregon, I think would be a big mistake. And then finally, I just wanted to comment that Councilor Keating is on his honeymoon, but he would be very supportive of this action tonight.
Thank you. Counselor Evans.
Yeah, question for staff. As part of the review, are we going to be taking a look at whether or not rentals move from long-term rentals to short-term rentals as a result of this? Would that be one of the measures that we will be looking at in terms of evaluation as we move down the line? If we pass this tonight and then we're looking 2 years down the line, I've had some anecdotal and some other conversations with you know, long-term and short-term landlords that have said you know, that they may move out of the long-term rental market and move towards moving their units into short-term rentals as a result, which would not be good for us in the long run.
Yeah, we definitely have the ability to track some of the short term. We're working through what the measures will need to be, and I'll probably have a better idea of that in the fall, and I can check in with you. But your motion literally said a qualitative and quantitative analysis of impacts to renters, landlords, and the rental housing market. So that would, the rental housing market would be, is it shifting from short term to long term?
Yeah. Okay.
As best as we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilor Clark, one more comment, and then we'll go for a vote.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I suspect doing a head count that this will pass. City Manager, I know I've heard the comments tonight. I suspect that Councilor Evans is correct. I've counseled a number of people that I work with who are rental owners that it is a wiser move and probably a greater financial advantage to have an Airbnb than a long-term rental in Eugene. I suspect that we're going to see quite a lot of evictions happen in the interim time between this passage and when it takes effect. My understanding of that is 30 days. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
So I certainly hope we have some manner to capture how many evictions take place between now and the next 30 days. Because I think it will be absolutely substantial that people will want to move on this before they have the liability to pay the 2 months worth of relocation assistance. And I think those numbers won't be small in this community. So I think we're putting a bunch of people out of their homes tonight if we pass this, and I really hope my colleagues do.
All right, thank you. With that, motion is on the table. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opposed. 2, so that passes. Thank you very much. Thank you for the hard work on this issue. I am very glad you have proceeded with it. And with that, we are adjourned.